So Vars2 made a video called How to Make Genshin Impact Good Again. And this is one of the biggest content creators in all of Genshin Impact. And this is something that I've truly boggled my mind over on. How do they fix Genshin? And to be honest, I could probably think of a solution, but fixing it and getting people to want to go back to it, I feel like it just isn't possible. But at least more Genshin CCs acknowledging that the game is in a horrific spot and not saying, but Natlan's so peak the war. It's terrible. Nodcry is going to be terrible. Shneznaya is going to be fucking terrible. And when Paimon ends up being the final boss, good God, I'm going to want to fucking shoot myself.
Throughout the past year, tons of videos have been made about the current state of the game in more ways than one. One aspect in particular that's been the target of scrutiny is quality of life. More specifically, how Genshin's been lagging behind in quality of life.
You want to know how to really improve your quality of life by quitting Genshin Impact.
Quality of life is an interesting dynamic in gacha games. Having played a great many of them myself, I don't think there's any genre that puts anywhere near the same amount of priority towards it. It takes years or even decades for mainstream games or MMOs to introduce quality of life features. But in gacha games, you see a new thing being added every other month, it seems. Not a bad thing per se, but if you stick to a gacha game for a year or more, a good one that is, you'll find a number of important changes being added to the game.
Yeah, that's because these games take pennies to develop and they make billions, right? That's why. So, you know, that should be to be expected.
For the sake of convenience, Genshin Impact's a bit slow in that regard, and it's only become more aggravating for the player base to have asked for things to be done for years, only for it to rarely if ever take place. In
Of course, why would it?
Popularity of the 5,000 or so
why would they need to change everything when they're still breaking records every single time they slop out a new dog shit unit? Like, why would they even try? Like, legit, there's no reason for them to try because the dumb fucks who play this game just slop up anything regardless.
A huge portion of them were based on how the game's user experience ranks close to the worst among the mainstream titles, a statement that has grown more and more noticeable with every improvement competing titles have made. So for today, I want to make a video detailing as many changes I can think of that will improve the game's experience for everyone.
Sure, let's hear it.
This, if you feel like I left out anything, be sure to let me know in the comments down below.
Okay, let's hear it.
And I suppose while you're down there, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. Anyway.
And I don't want to hear none of this. We'll make everything for free. I want to see if any of this shit's reasonable. I'm actually curious if this guy actually, in big May 2025, has the same mental wherewithal that I had back in 2023 when I quit this fucking dog shit game.
Anyway, let's get started. Quite possibly the most requested feature of all time is artifact loadouts.
It won't change anything. Like, less than 1% of people actually care about this shit. Nobody cares. Won't change anything, won't affect anything. This will get nobody. Want to know why? Because it's too late. This needs to be a feature that's implemented very quickly. It's too little too late.
It's practically a meme at this point where players are fiending for loadouts every time a new patch is implemented. I'll be frank, I don't think we even need them in the game. The only time I would see them being actively used is if there are characters who routinely swap between 2 or 3 different sets, but for the most part, the majority of the cast only uses one each, with alternative options being side grades at best. Realistically, if they were to implement this, it wouldn't really be used as much, since unlike HSR for example, units don't have dual purposes like how you can go follow-up attack or break on Himeka, or how you can go pure fiction relics or normal DPS relics on a couple erudition characters. I suppose if we had more endgame content variety, that could merit the need for loadouts, but at the moment...
But they're not going to add that.
There's none. So why do people clamor for it to be implemented so aggressively? Memes aside, it's less about the feature itself and more about optics. The fact that it's been heavily requested for years and still neglected gives off the impression of the devs not really caring to adhere to player feedback.
Absolutely, they don't care. This would take less than 5 minutes to implement, by the way.
So adding this would be less of an actual quality of life mechanic and more of a way to lend credence to Hoyo's intent. Next change is another heavily requested one, dialogue skip button.
Yeah, the dialogue skip button would be great, but what they need even more than that, is to make the dialogue good to where you don't want to skip it. Dialogue skip will just let people zoom through, but it won't make anybody stay.
Which is I'm sure it would be nice for every player to be a story lover, even as someone who studied narrative storytelling and video game storytelling in college. Sometimes I just don't feel like sitting through paragraphs of what is ultimately meaningless banter between characters for hours on end, like the R&R quest. If this was a movie or
14.5 hours, by the way, and it can't just be a skip button, it has to be a skip and summarize.
Or anime where we could see tons of emotions and actions or visualization, that would be a different story, but you'd be lucky to see any character moving around or being expressive during conversations. One more issue is that several gameplay elements or areas on the map are locked behind said tedious dialogue, like the R&R quest. One of the biggest things players were happy to see in WoWA is the option to get a TLDR of what's happening in the cutscene
skip and summarize, baby.
Greatly appeasing those who, while they may sit through the main storyline due to its importance, don't really care for side quest stories and whatnot.
Dude, every time I stumble upon a video of you or a stream of yours, I find you talking smack about Genshin. I really wonder why. Let me explain to you why. Because that's the algorithm that you chose for yourself. I'm going to pull up my YouTube channel. So, one Genshin Impact video. This is a Genshin Impact VA video. Variety. Oh, no, this is the voice actors. Variety. This is about Genshin players losing over power creep. Variety. Non-Genshin. There we go. All right, cool. So legit, less than 8% of my content is that. So that's because your algorithm is pushing that content because you like to watch it. Hope this helps.
Like the R&R request. Additionally, the most annoying cases of unskippable dialogue would definitely be the ones where the characters don't even talk, yet for some reason you can't just mash click and get through everything. Like the fucking R&R request.
Yep.
Please, Hoyo, just give us the option to skip stuff. People who like reading and listening can still do so, while those who just want to get to the new area or something can be able to in a reasonable amount of time. Third change, can we please take on the same weekly boss more than once a week? HSR, CCC, and WUA also have a 3-time claim limit, but they have the decency to let you fight the same boss 3 times.
Wow!
Genshin still, to this day, only lets you fight them once a week, which means anytime a new weekly boss comes out, and the character needs their materials, you physically are unable to max out that character for upwards of a month. You need 12 materials, I believe, or was it 9? I'm pretty sure it's 12, considering it starts at level 7. Bosses drop 1 to 2 materials per week. So yeah, people weren't even able to max out Mabuika until like February, which is kind of insane. I mean, not saying
yeah,
they
that's
have to,
disgusting. I'm not gonna lie.
even at 177.
That would be a great change.
They're not game-changing features, but that's all the more reason why they're important to add.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot to do this, but it's like when Asian moms randomly fix you a plate of fruit with
yeah, you need to wait a whole month to max a character. That's just fucking torture at that point, man. It's not even worth.
for it. It's a gesture to show that they care about this stuff. Change number 4, remove the fucking day of the week. I hate this so much. I'm sure
that's still in the game. How the fuck is that still in the game?
most people have a schedule or write down what they plan to spend their resin on
What?
each day, but I can't be bothered to do that. There are so many times where I want to work on a character on a Tuesday, only to find out their materials are a Monday-Thursday thing, forcing me to have to wait 2 days to actually get to it. But then by Thursday I forget and use my resin on something else. Why is this even in the game?
Can you give a reason why they won't change these last 2 points? Oh yeah, because they don't give a fuck about you. I hope this helps.
Sure, it may have been a fun little gimmick to show the passage of time, especially during lockdown when most people lost their sense of time, but can they just please allow us to farm whatever materials we want no matter what day? It's just meaningless time gating for no reason. Change number 5.
That's insane that that's still in the game.
This is kind of a personal request of mine. It's become muscle memory at this point for me to log on every day and instantly go to the crafting bench to condense my resin. That way, I only have to do an artifact or a material domain 5 times instead of 10. Several times I autopiloted and condensed my resin, forgetting today I was supposed to farm ascension materials that drop from a boss.
Just make an option to where before you go fight a domain, as much energy as you put into it, the rewards will be multiplied by that amount. Because nobody likes doing these dailies. Just be like, oh, how much energy do you want to use on this? 160? Great. You get 8 extra rewards. 1 shot. Bada bing, bada boom. And it'll make it more fun.
Except you can't, despite world bosses also costing 40 resin. They're the same energy cost, so if they can also let us exchange a condensed resin to claim them, that would be great. Change 6, remote access. Even though I'm a huge Paper Mario and Pokemon Coliseum fan, I really hate games that don't let you save wherever you want. There's probably a logistical reason for it, maybe to save memory or whatever by not letting you save in any location, but for something essential like the crafting bench, having to teleport to a town every time you want to craft something is...
You still gotta use crafting benches? Oh my god. Holy fuck. Y'all are living in the Stone Age. Do y'all have AC in this game at least? Do y'all got running water? Do y'all got access to running water? Like, holy shit. Like, playing Genshin is like living in poverty.
Rather tiresome, to put it lightly. I suppose the same can be said for expeditions and claiming commission rewards too. Look, I love Catherine too, best NPC world, but when every other game lets you claim stuff remotely, it's a huge pain to have to keep going back every single time. If they want to meet us in the middle, maybe make it so we can craft a one-time use remote bench, like if it was Minecraft. I wouldn't mind spending 4 iron or wood per day to make a crafting bench. If anything, that would add a bit more fun to the game. Once a week, I usually take a few minutes to collect like 20 crystal flies to keep my supply of condensed resin good to go. But point being, please give us remote.
You still gotta collect the gems to condense your resin? Brother, why are you making players do that shit? Nobody wants to capture those butterflies. It's fucking torture.
Access to these things. It may sound overly spoiled or entitled for me to complain about taking 10 more seconds to teleport to a town, but it's less about Genshin not doing it and more about everyone else doing it that forces Genshin to have to follow along. If every other game gives you that convenience, it makes the games that don't have it feel that much more tedious.
Oh, that's fucking terrible.
So important. It's not the feature itself that people notice, rather lack thereof. They emphasize that a lot during my UX classes. People don't really notice something when it's working well, they only notice it when it's not working or when it's not there at all.
True.
Change 7. General material conversion. Genshin gives you the ability to convert attribute stones and weekly boss materials into other materials of the same category, but it would be nice if they could do that for all materials. Being able to convert, say, prosperity talent mats to gold mats, or kindling to contention, justice to equity, freedom to ballot. On that note, weekly boss materials can only convert to other materials that drop from the same boss. If they don't have any intention of allowing the same weekly boss to be taken on thrice per week, then the option to convert other boss materials to that one would be nice. I'm sitting on like 100 of fallen mats that have been collecting dust on account of Hoyo not releasing a Mossstack character in years. For that matter, a general material substitute would be helpful too. HSR has those tiers of whatever thingamadoohickeys that can be used in place of any ascension materials you have. If they could bring those to Genshin, I would greatly appreciate it. Having mentioned Evolve, that brings me to our next change. More of a new feature
that would be alright.
but I'd like them to add a special challenge difficulty for every week.
I think we'd all agree, even if they changed all of this, it wouldn't make Genshin good. It wouldn't save it. It would just make Genshin more convenient. And I'll be real, when a game feels inconvenient, that's just because you don't like it. And the way to fix it is to just quit the game. Like, when the game becomes a chore and you don't enjoy it, you should just quit the game. It's really that easy.
Weekly boss. Not for materials or anything, but maybe for leaderboards or bragging rights or something. Even though the newer weekly bosses like the Knave and Primal Fire can be reasonably difficult if you don't know the mechanics, the majority of these bosses
Oh, and by the way, after this video's over, I'll tell you how to actually fix Genshin Impact.
go down like lead balloons with a halfway decent team. In fact, you can straight up skip half of their mechanics by one-tapping them right away.
I'm sorry, Malvika's playstyle is so gay. It's insane. Like, what the fuck is this immersion-breaking character where she fights people on a motorcycle? Holy shit, that's just about the lamest shit I've ever seen. Like, that's like a bunch of like 70-year-old like Japanese men or like in a boardroom thinking like, what's gonna make the kids think that we're sick? What's gonna make the kids think that we're swag-des? Bro, it's so lame.
Basically, I'm asking for Genshin to do the tactical hologram treatment, make the same boss but make them insanely difficult, maybe for extra currency or something we can work towards. Something player anxiety.
Yeah, but that would give them anxiety.
Oh, to hell with that. Kind of a shame too, given most of these bosses have elaborate sequences and phases. We just don't care.
Here, Vars, the game that you're describing, it already exists. It's just called Go Play Wuthering Waves. Everything that you've said exists in Wuthering Waves, so rather than want Genshin to fix itself, why wouldn't you just go play Wuthering Waves?
Though, because we nuke everything in one hit. For the next change, I say this because Honkai Star Rail has this. Every artifact set should be available in the strongbox the instant they release. I get that Hoyo doesn't want us to stock up on new artifacts without ever stepping foot in the new domain, but the rate at which new sets come in is so painstakingly slow. In defense of Hoyo, they have been speeding things up a little, but remember when we didn't get version 1 artifacts until version 3, or version 2 artifacts until version 4? Considering how mind-numbing the artifact grind is, if they could let us convert bricks into new pieces that, let's be real, will also be bricks, that would alleviate the grind a little bit.
Yeah, but then how are they going to punish you by making you play their game? You gotta understand, this isn't a game for you anymore, man. This is a punishment. Why are you asking Genshin Impact to put down the bucket so you can eat food? No, brother, you're gonna starve. That's your punishment, buddy.
If you're interested in seeing all the artifact changes I had in mind, I actually do have a recent video on it for you to watch. Again, more of a feature than a change, but something that would be fun to try out is an infinite spiral abyss mode where players can progressively go deeper and deeper into floors 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so on and so forth, with exponentially ramping difficulty to see how far they can get. Just like
Nobody's gonna want to do that. This game's made for retarded children. Bro, everything that you're asking for already exists in Wuthering Waves. So just go play that, because this game is for stupid babies. You're playing the wrong game, man. Nobody's gonna say, you don't want to know how we make Mickey Mouse better? We give him a gun and we have him kill Nazis, right? You're just not the demographic, man. Go play a better game.
It's like the weekly boss challenge mode. I think a big reason why people feel so bored of the game lately is that once you do all the events and stuff, there really is no reason to keep playing or working towards anything. Even casual players need something to want to build towards. Right now, there just isn't an incentive to do anything other than the bare minimum, and so adding content, even if there's no beneficial reward to it, can be enough to make players want to keep going further with their units. Or they could do something really simple, perhaps common EXP materials, or maybe even trophies to add to their account. Whatever the case, I'll be begging Hoyo to add more endgame content until they eventually do.
They won't. It's been 4 years. And they're just not going to do that, brother.
Taking a break from new stuff for a moment, I want to bring some attention to old stuff. Cinnabar Spindle, Festering Desire, Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword. What do these all have in common? You can't get them anymore. Albedo's unique 2-part story, Unreconciled Stars, Labyrinth Warriors, you can't access those either. Genshin has a ton of great flagship events over the years, some that contributed a ton to the continuity and or gameplay, but none of those are accessible anymore, which is a huge loss of content in a game that desperately could use it. Honkai Star Rail will
Yeah, and they want you to feel that way, so that way it promotes FOMO. They're not going to change that.
and WCCC let you play through flagship events at any time you want, even being able to collect rewards from them. Granted, you still miss out on the time-limited rewards, which usually contain refinement mats for the event weapons, but not being able to access old events really sucks in a game that doesn't do reruns. Most gachas have reruns for events specifically for this purpose, to allow players who weren't around back when they first came out to experience them, or for those who didn't get to finish all the quests to finally do so. HSR even lets you buy old event light codes. Hoyo needs to do this for Genshin. If anything, it could be helpful in making filler versions more worthwhile, running the flagship event but also rerunning an old one, or they can
Yeah, they're just not going to do that.
do a part 2 type thing, reuse the same assets but write up some new dialogue or add new items. For the next change, I want character choice banner rotation. The Chronicle Wish is A-star, credit where it's due, but when HSR made it so you can select from a pool of version 1 units to replace the 50/50 losses, I can't fathom why they didn't think of that for Genshin.
They didn't think of that, and they realized they don't need to change anything because they're already making millions of dollars every month. They've already thought of it.
We were promised more standard banner units and even just got one recently in Misuki, letting us choose 3 characters to replace the 9 we can roll in.
Yo, Chad, is Misuki good or does she suck?
The standard banner would be a great way for people to get their hands on old characters, especially since we're getting to a point where Hoyo is forced to do reruns for multiple units at a time to fit everyone in. I would prefer if they allow it to be thrown into the Acquaint Fate pool instead of just
She sucks, bad, trash, what a surprise.
for that banner, but I also didn't mind meeting them halfway. Getting constellations of old characters can be a way for them to keep up with the modern ones. C3, C4 Yelan, for example, would certainly be a caliber above C0, C1. On that note, while we're talking about pulling, a very generous change for players would be the ability to acquire subsequent constellations of a character through Star Glitter. Whether
Yeah, if you want that, it's already in Wuthering Waves. It's already in the Wuthering Waves game. You can play Wuthering Waves. It's in that game. It's over there.
Waves has been doing this for their sequence bans, and I think it's a nice gesture for 2 reasons. 1, the vast majority of players
Yeah, one, because it makes players feel good. If you want that, you just play the other game. It's really that easy.
aren't able to get their hands on more than one
Why don't you just call this video, I hate Genshin Impact and I want to go play Wuthering Waves.
copy of a 5-star character if they're free to play,
If you want Wuthering Waves, then just go play Wuthering Waves. It's really that easy.
unless they save up a ton and or are extremely lucky. At the same time, recently anyway, Hoyo's been
Because autistic children can't handle Wuthering Waves. And that's why they play Genshin Impact. It's really that easy.
tailoring
Right.
5-star
You're going to make all the autistic children not have anything anymore, Vars. You're going to ruin their fucking life.
characters to really pressure you to get their first and second constellations, which are financially inaccessible for most people. 2, it basically introduces a pity for the pity. I don't have the exact link off the top of my head, but someone shared that they lost every single 50/50 since the beginning of the game, which put them deadass at the bottom 0%.
Yeah, whenever somebody's born to play Genshin Impact, the doctor also tells the parents that they lost the 50-50.
Of players in 50/50 luck. Having this would make it so if you lose 10 50/50s in a row, you could eventually get compensated a 5-star constellation.
Wow.
It's just something I think most gachas already do, not just WUA. I recall seeing them in Blue Archive as well. Second to last change,
Why the fuck you playing Blue Archive, bro? Why do you know what's in that game, Vars? Who are you?
Resin overflow system. Very simple one. I know they recently bumped up the cap to like 200 so that we don't have to redo it within 24 hours, and unlike WUA, Genshin has the option to condense resin so we effectively have a cap of 400 instead of 200, but giving players overflow energy at a slower rate is becoming more widely implemented these days. For that reason, I expect Toyo to do the same for Genshin. Sometimes players
Yeah, they ain't.
just have to skip a few days, whether for vacation, burnout, or for whatever reason. Knowing they're salvaging at least a portion of resin helps alleviate the FOMO a bit. Lastly, and one of the biggest ones, give us better multiplayer incentives. I said this before, I'll say
Nobody's gonna want more multiplayer incentives because fucking Genshin Impact players are retarded autistic children who have no friends. And if the multiplayer's too good and they have nobody to play it with, they're gonna kill themselves. Right? So you gotta make sure that this game is like miserable people friendly to where they can just play with Paimon by themselves. Nobody wants that.
say it again, Genshin should have been an MMORPG. I haven't touched multiplayer basically at
No, it shouldn't have. It would have been dead on release if it was an MMORPG.
all in the past few years, mostly because everything is easier to do by yourself and there's also not much of a reason to. Occasionally, events might encourage you to play with others or even mandate you to, but generally speaking, there's no practical incentive behind it. Something that could serve as
And everybody knows that Genshin Impact co-op is just not as fun as Genshin Impact single player. Because the fun of Genshin Impact is being able to swap and do your own reactions. And like, that way you have more buttons to press. And whenever you only play as one character, you only have 2 buttons to press. And you're just sitting there auto-attacking, being bored as fuck. It's shitty as fuck. Same thing with WUA. WUA's multiplayer is fucking trash.
maybe an extra layer of progression, or heck, even something like a raid boss that can be taken on by multiple parties of 4. I might just be looking at this from too much of an MMO point of view, but multiplayer
You are. Nobody wants this.
spending sort
Let me rephrase that. Everybody who wants this isn't smart.
of spot for the game, especially for casual players who want to hang
But
out
Zajev said co-op Genshin is better. That's great. Zajev is the biggest retard I've ever met in my entire life.
with friends. Adding things you can only access in multiplayer would be a big boon for the game's staying power. So anyway, there are at least a dozen more quality of life changes or content features we could talk about, but I think I'll go with the 15 I chose for now. Genshin
Yeah.
still has the potential to be a frontrunner for the gacha industry, but for them to restore player goodwill, they can't just do the bare minimum. It's all about going above and beyond, whether or not those features are actually conducive to a better experience. Essentially, it demonstrates attention to detail and a desire to improve the game in whatever way they can, without having to be told. If you look at other gacha games, either now or in the past, they would usually implement quality of life features soon after players have been clamoring for them, or they would just implement them without us asking for it in the first place. But I feel like for Genshin, they're only compelled to do so if the pressure from other competitors becomes too great. But
I feel like if you're still playing Genshin Impact in 2025 and you don't realize that this company don't give a fuck about you, you're a lost cause, straight up. Vars. The only solution is to quit. That is the only solution. That is how you win, is by quitting. I've been telling people this for 2 years. The game will not become better. It will not fix itself. You need to quit. There is no reason to play.
But that's not the right mindset to have. You don't want to follow what other people are doing. You want to be the person trailblazing everything. In any case, what do you guys
If you want to be a trailblazer, play Honkai Star Rail.
think about my list? Do you agree or disagree with my choice?
I disagree with everything, Vars. That will change nothing. That won't change shit. That doesn't make the game better, that makes it convenient. You want to know how to fix Genshin Impact genuinely in 2025. So here we go. Retcon Paimon out of the story. Get her out. She never existed. It was all a fever dream. Let the main character talk and have a personality. Story's fixed. Right? Then, whenever you go to combat, run a script that just teleports you into Wuthering Waves. Bada bing, bada boom, the game's fixed. It's really that easy. Guys, I'm gonna be real. Genshin's not good. It hasn't been good in years. It's never gonna get good. The way to fix it is to quit. This isn't a joke. This isn't a meme. This isn't me being a dick. This is me telling y'all the truth. If you aren't happy playing Genshin Impact, that's because it's not good and you should quit. Play a different game. It's really that easy. Hope this helps. Like, comment, subscribe.